Okay, welcome to my next tutorial on OBS or Open Broadcaster software. This one's going to be a bit different because I'm going to focus on usability or UX, but it might still be helpful to some folks that are just learning the program. First, a couple things about me, my background. I've been doing IT in some form or another for over 20 years. I've done development, I've done support, analysis, hardware and software configuration. I also do some electronics on the side, and I'm heavily involved in multimedia. So I'm not new to this stuff, although about 4 weeks ago I had to get up and running with OBS, and overall found it fairly simple to get certain things going, but then other things I was just scratching my head about it. So I thought, well, let me, after a while, gather a few of these things up and highlight them here in the context of usability and talk about them here. So one thing to note is that, yes, I realize that OBS is free, it's open source, and it's a wonderful tool. It really is, and we're very lucky to have it. But I don't think open source and free necessarily means that things should be difficult to use or have bad UX. I think, if anything, the open source community can help push UX for everyone, even for the larger companies that are out there charging us for software. So I'm also going to try to offer solutions as we go and point out a few things that might help. So just so you see what I'm used to looking at on any given day, this is Ableton Live, very multi-layered, complicated screens, nothing new there. Propeller head reason, very similar situation. If you don't have multiple monitors, this program can be difficult to use. And Magic Music Visualizer has a lot of different options, multi-layered, has programming attached to it that you can do. So this is the type of stuff that I'm used to. So I'm definitely not a newbie at this stuff. I'm going to be drawing from this book a bit and some ideas here that Don Norman covers. But first I want to give a definition of usability in case folks are not familiar with this. So it's simply the quality or state of being usable or ease of use. Of course, what's easy for me might not be the same as what's easy for you, but there should be kind of a baseline of usability that is going to be something we can strive for and a target. So one of the terms that Don Norman uses in his book is the term affordance. And some of the things I'm going to cover here are going to relate to this concept. So affordance is the quality or property of an object that defines its possible uses or makes clear how it can be used or how it should be used. And I think that's going to be relevant to us here because when I look at a screen, that screen should guide me to the tools that I need for whatever that screen is designated for. And I found that that's not always the case here in OBS. So I want to go with an analogy here just to drive home this point of UX. This is a tweet that my wife sent me from a site that she follows in relation to education, where instructional strategies are developed at different levels and often leave out the people that are actually going to be using them, i.e. the teachers. And so we have a mobile here that somebody's created, and they're watching it, and they're thinking, oh, this is great. It's spinning around, it's playing music. But the person that's actually seeing this and going to play with it is looking at it from a completely different perspective. They're looking up, they're seeing the butts of the animals here, and it may not be the same, well, it's definitely not the same experience for them. And whether or not it's pleasurable or beneficial is another thing. So this is the different perspectives that we often fall into and can actually become blind to as we're developing anything, physical products, software, anything. So we're going to jump into OBS here and look at the following issues. And I'm just going to run down these items and get through them here because I've got a lot to cover. So the first one is audio settings being in too many places. If we want to count them, I'm going to go through. Now remember, I'm coming at this from an audio background, digital audio workstations, and so what was very important to me initially was how do I set up my audio? What I found are at least 6 places I've got to go. So let's count them. 1, I'm going to go into settings, and we're going to count this as 1. I'm not going to count every single one of these things, but this is one area. There's an output section here and an audio tab, but you can't even see that unless you go to advanced. Normally when you come in here it's simple, so you would miss that. But we're going to count this as 2. If we go back out, we've got a gear here, and we're going to go to advanced audio properties, so that's going to be 3. We also have properties, 4, and then we also have filters, which I'm also going to come back to on its own. That's a 5th place to set audio stuff. And if we wanted to count this object here, we could count this as 6. We could also say, well, I'm going to add audio. So I've got to add audio here. And this is really a 7th place, where after I've done all of that other stuff, I'm going to be able to add this. So 6 to 7 different places where I have audio settings. It's too much. It's just too much. I don't know. The problem with this one is, this is probably the toughest one, how to get that all in one place. I think reducing these options, getting these options all in one place would go a long way, or maybe making a hotkey here, or a button rather, to get to the filters, being able to just double click on this to get to the properties. There's got to be something to get rid of this, I think. Also in here, I think some condensing in here could happen, or possibly you've got a lot of other stuff here, like hotkeys and stuff for this. Maybe we don't need all of that spread out. Maybe just shrink that and then add some other stuff on this window. Definitely a few things to look at there, because you could possibly make it even more complicated, but I think reducing the number of options would be a good start. Jumping to filters. So in the visual world, if you're working in Photoshop, folks are pretty familiar with using filters, color filters, and that terminology makes sense. However, using the term filters for audio, while it's arguably could make sense, it's not the common terminology that we use. We typically will say plug-in, and yes, a compressor is sort of a filter, and definitely like noise gates filter out different types of low end or static. There's definitely different things they do that are filtering, but that's not really the terminology that we use. There is, it looks like, a plug-in option here for pulling in VSTs. I would just change this terminology, make plug-in the default term that's used in this menu just for the audio. Control click and right click and hidden menus. So that is a big one for me here. I noticed that, for example, if I want to get into some options for this comic strip, I have a gear here, and I can click on that gear, and it takes me in here. But it doesn't give me everything. It doesn't give me everything I need. If I want to get to more options for that, I've got to control or right click to get to this other menu, and then it gives me a whole bunch of other options here. To me, that's unnecessarily hidden, and I would think it would make more sense to just, if I'm going to have a gear here, click on this gear, give me everything, give me all the settings I need, so I don't have to go hunting for them. Hidden scrolling. This one is depends on the screen you're on. Some screens are better than others. If I'm going to add a video, for example, you could see here there is a scroll bar, but because of the blending of this gray into the background, this is not easy to see. I tend to keep my screen kind of dark, so it doesn't stand out as much. But even with my screen lighter, it's not, to me, that's a little blended in. But more importantly, if I have my mouse over top of the left side here, I will get that to scroll and I'll see my options. If I have my mouse over top of this playlist and I try to scroll, my scroll is staggered, and that's why for the first while using this program, I didn't even see some of these other options down here because I'm tending to be over top of this area selecting my playlist, which is what this is for. These options here, network cache, audio track, these can certainly, I think, be cut at least in half, moved up, and then also maybe shrink this playlist box a bit. Just a suggestion. Scene properties saved after rename. Okay, this is a big one that reminds me of training electronic health records, and we had, for the platform we were using, I would always have to tell people to make sure they hit enter in order to save whatever it was they were entering. Some people just thought, oh, the computer's going to remember it, so blah, 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 I'm going to type and I'm done. And no, you've got to hit enter so that it remembers it. So I would say my mantra was always enter or always hit enter. In this case, we've got exact opposite. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to right click. Again, I've got to go into this menu to get here. I'm going to rename this strip. And normally, in any other program I'm using, I would hit enter here to make sure it gets what I want. I am hitting enter, but it's not doing anything. So the only way to have that save is if I click off of that box. So that's one UX problem right there. That's very common where I'm typing. So my hands are here, I'm hitting enter, but now I've got to go into a different mode. I've got to grab the mouse. There's nothing here telling me I need to do that. It's not following normal behavior, so now I hit enter. Nothing happens, but I click the mouse, and that's what makes it work. I think that one's easy to fix. The other one is can't get there from here. This is similar to the control click problem where there are options I can't see. So if I have to go here, I can pull in my image, but I'm not able to see all the other options that are underneath this if I control click. So I can't get there. I also noticed the upper menu here, the toolbar menu, there's a lot of options I thought would be here that aren't. So options for renaming the sources. So one of my tests for a piece of software is, how well can I work it with one hand? So like I'm on the phone talking to somebody, and I'm trying to work through a problem with them, or I'm trying to do something, and maybe I want to rename this on the phone. I can't do that single-handedly. I've got to do the control click to get there. There's no menu option up here to rename a source. So I think some expanded menu options would be good. So that is my assessment as of right now for OBS. Again, it's an awesome platform. It's very useful for just making things, even if you're not doing live video and audio or making tutorials like this. I think that it will advance, I hope, over the years. And I think that maybe if somebody's interested in collaborating on something like this, I would not mind doing UX testing and trying to give you an idea from my perspective what is going on in your new developments. I think that's how I can contribute the best way. And by making videos like this, the intention is to make it better. Everybody's trying to make stuff better. So thanks for watching, and have a good one.